Spectrophilia. Sexual attraction to ghosts, or the phenomenon of sexual encounters between ghosts and humans. Hey, welcome back. For those of you who are new here, my name is Extravaganza Grotesca, and from the intro, you might have already guessed that today I'm going to talk about ghosts. The Entity, it's a supernatural horror film from 1982 in which the amazing Barbara Hershey is haunted and raped by an invisible, malevolent force. To be honest, the film is really good, but from my point of view, it hasn't aged very well, visually speaking, mainly because some of the effects that you can see on the film have become obsolete, especially with all the new technologies that we have nowadays, and they can look a bit cheesy in some parts. However, the message of the film can be interpreted as a metaphor for the feelings and situations in which women who have been raped are left in a world dominated by men, resulting in female sexual victimhood. The film is based on a novel of the same title that was written in 1978, and as incredible as this might sound, they are both based on the real-life case of Doris Bither. Very little is known about Doris's childhood. She was born in an upper middle class family, although both her parents were alcoholics. And some reports say that she suffered from childhood abuse. During her teens, she had a big problem or fight with her family, and that resulted in them disowning her and cutting off any kind of relationship. That left Doris all alone in the world to try to make a life of her own. It is believed that Doris started playing around with Ouija boards and doing seances at a very early age. And as she was getting older, she mixed those two with drugs and alcohol. She married a few times, but all her marriages ended up in abusive relationships and obviously in a disaster. She had 4 children between the ages of 6 and 16 at the time of the events, all from different fathers. So as a single mother, she struggled quite a lot to support her family. They all lived with very little money in a stressful environment and in a small, not very nice house in Culver City, California. This all resulted in not having the ideal relationship with her children, especially with her eldest son. One day in 1974, Doris overheard 2 men talking about paranormal events in a local bookstore. She approached them and she just told them that her house was haunted. These 2 men were Dr. Barry Taff and his associate Kerry Gaynor. Dr. Taff was working at the time at the parapsychology lab at the University of California, Los Angeles, and now is a renowned biomedical engineer, parapsychologist, and psychophysiology doctor. The 2 parapsychologists were intrigued by Doris's allegations. They arrived at her house for the first time on the 22nd of August 1974. They wanted to know more about Doris's story. She told them that there were spirits or forces that physically attacked her and her children. And those encounters went from simply bumping into the ghost when walking around the house to things being thrown in the air, to literally Doris being raped by the ghosts. Taff and Gaynor, who had done several investigations about the paranormal like this one before, were very skeptical at the beginning, and they didn't expect much about this case, especially after Doris told them that she had been a victim of abuse when she was a child. Their initial thought was that this could all be the result of a psychological trauma. Doris was very reluctant to talk about her past, and they didn't want to investigate further along that line because they didn't want her to push them away from the case. They were also very aware that proving these kind of claims in a scientific manner is very difficult, especially the ghost rape. Doris's testimony of ghost encounters was supported by some of her friends and her children. They all said to have seen the apparitions themselves. Her eldest son said that one time he saw her mother being thrown away in the air across the room, and that when he tried to help her, he was also thrown in the air. The children named the ghosts Mr. Who's-It. And Doris was able to show the investigators some bruises that she had in her inner thighs and other parts of her body, which she said they were the result of the ghost raping her. She assured them that two small beings would hold her, while a third one, the tallest one, would rape her. At that point, Taff and Gaynor decided to set up high-speed recording cameras around the house. They called some professional photographers as well as a few more investigators in order to try to capture any of these on tape. Once everything was set up around the house, they asked Doris to invoke the entity. To everyone's surprise, after a few minutes, some weird lights started appearing in the small room they were in. And then, a greenish mist started materializing until it took the shape of a muscly man's torso with no face. Unfortunately, none of that was caught on tape. However, they did manage to get a picture in where an arch of light can be seen floating on top of Doris. The peculiarity of this picture is that the arch is completely smooth, even though the room had a corner right behind the light. So if it had been a flashlight or any sort of normal light, it would project towards the wall, and the light would be seen bending along with the corner, as that is the natural way that light works. However, that's not the case, and the arch looks completely smooth, kind of like ignoring that there was a corner there. They also managed to take some pictures that, according to them, every time Doris said that the entity was present, the picture would come out white, and when she said that he was gone, the picture would come out normal. For the team, that was enough evidence to support Doris's claims. The investigators also found out that the entities would be stronger when certain songs were played in the house, like songs from Black Sabbath. At least they had ghosts with good taste. They spent around 2.5 months investigating, and they were able to see for themselves some more encounters that proved that the entities were real. As the time was passing by, the manifestations were decreasing, and Doris and her family ended up moving out of that house. In fact, they moved several times, and Doris claimed that the entity was following her and her family every time they moved. She even said that she got impregnated by a ghost once. Ultimately, around the late 80s, no one ever heard back from her again. In 2009, a journalist from the site ghosttheories.com interviewed Brian Harris, the middle out of Doris's 3 sons. He confirmed that his mother died in 1995 because of a respiratory failure. When asked about all the events, he said that it was all true, that all that I just told you was true. We need to keep in mind that he was a child when all this happened, so in the interview there's a few contradictions when he answers some of the questions. When talking about the pregnancy thing, he did say that his mother had a lot of boyfriends and probably one of them just got her pregnant once. And then some medical tests confirmed that she had an extrauterine pregnancy, which ended up in not being viable. There's been a few theories as to why this might have happened to Doris. Some are more towards the supernatural side than others. Some people say that because Doris played around with the occult when she was younger, she could have opened a portal for entities and ghosts to come through. Others say that she might have had some sort of psychic or telekinetic abilities, and that would have made her an easy target for entities to use her as a catalyst to manifest themselves into the real world. A third theory, and the most reasonable one, is that due to the abuses that Doris suffered from male figures during her life, she subconsciously materialized her attackers. The entities could be the representation of some of her partners or even some of the male members of her family. And the fact that there was 3 of them could very well be an analogy to her 3 sons. In 2011, Dr. Taff wrote an article in which he analyzed the case after all these years, applying all the knowledge that he has now. And he came to the conclusion that it was never the case of ghost rape, rather the case of a real poltergeist. Gosh, that's a relief. It was confirmed by her children that Doris used to drink a lot, borderline in alcoholism, as that was her way of dealing with all her traumas and the negative things that happened in her life. She never reached out for psychological treatment, though she did self-medicate. Her turbulent lifestyle and way of dealing with things obviously resulted in not a really good family environment, and that created a lot of negative energies and feelings around the house. That could explain the poltergeist activity for the people who believe in ghosts. But from a scientific point of view, these negative energy and feelings could physically manifest through delusions, hallucinations, memory lapses, and even repressed memories that ended up manifesting themselves in a visible manner. So the concept of the poltergeist in this case, rather than thinking that there's a ghost attached to a person, we could say that it is the person who subconsciously creates the ghosts by materializing all those suppressed feelings they have inside. Either way, whether you believe in ghosts or you don't, the truth is that Doris and her family did suffer a lot throughout their lives. As a last fun fact, Martin Scorsese included The Entity on his top 11 scariest horror films of all times. So if you haven't seen it yet, now you have plans for tonight. And with this, once again, we've reached the end of this video. Thank you so much for being here with me. And do let me know, how many of you believe in ghosts? Don't forget that subscribe so I can see you all next time. Hey, welcome back. Ghosts.